Welcome to the Cincy Postcast presented by Gold Star, your winning team off the pitch. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery. Yes, that is right. Streetside Brewery, one of the best Cincinnati breweries you will find out there over on the east side in the Columbia Tusculum neighborhood. They are doing some great stuff over there. If you have not checked them out, please do. You owe it to yourself. They have so many, dare I say, every type of beer on their tap list. They are so good at this. They have mad scientists working in the back there, and they have mastered what appears to be every single type of beer. I've got two recommendations for you right now. One, don't call this self-serving. It is the Cincy Shirt-Faced New England IPA. You gotta support our friends over at Cincy Shirts. It's also a very good beer. And then also Scars Are Beautiful. Again, another New England IPA that they did in collaboration to honor Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And they have a really beautiful can that beer goes in. So you gotta go check them out. And hey, when you check them out in the tap room, mention the postcast and they'll knock $1 off of your beer. Not a bad deal there. So a huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this episode. And thank you, listener, for using that code next time you go in. And on today's episode, well, you know, it's funny. This was supposed to be a very sad episode. And then it was going to get even sadder based on the result, but then Lucho's comments after the result. But then right before we hit the record button, some very interesting news came across our desk. And I'll be honest with you, took some sting out of that loss. Not all of it, but took a little sting out of that loss. So this is kind of a different postcast thing you were probably expecting. It's a little all over the place, but I think you're going to enjoy it. It's probably where a lot of FC Cincinnati fans are emotionally right now, trying to process everything that's going on. We give you a little insight on Lucho. We give you a little insight on this alleged massive transfer, third largest transfer in MLS history. Is that what's happening? Is that what's going on? On top of all of that, Jim Trace and the Makers, the band you're listening to right now, has a new song. And it's at the end of this episode, after the credits. So stick around for that. You put it all together and you have your very first off-season episode of the Cincy Postcast. And joining me to talk about all of that and more, I've got two gentlemen that are trying to take in what this weekend means right now as we record this kind of a weird situation. We're joined by Grayson and we're joined by the Chief. Chief, I gotta say, your video, a little peek behind the curtain. We do this via video, but we don't record the video. Your video looks different right now. Explain yourself.
So I made the unfortunate plan about 6 months ago to go to a destination wedding with a friend on the Big Island of Hawaii the day after the election, which, you know, we've had better nights. And so I found myself on the Big Island of Hawaii. Congratulations to Eric and Ange. Beautiful ceremony last night. And then today we decided, me and the two friends I'm with, to trek up the top of Mauna Kea. It's the tallest volcano or even tallest mountain in the world if you measure from the base where it starts underwater. So in order to go up the mountain, you have to stop at the visitor center about 9,000 feet up, 8,000 feet up to acclimate to altitude. So the timing of this worked out perfectly with the 5-hour time difference to record the podcast. And fellas, I'm a bundle of mixed emotions after Saturday and the news that broke this evening. So I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do with my hands. It's difficult to breathe for many reasons, not just the excitement, but, you know, good to be with you guys. Miss you guys back in the 513.
Oh, we miss you as well, Chief. Grayson, I'll introduce you here in a second, but I got to say, on the topic of weddings, I was also at a wedding this weekend. I was officiating a wedding that I'm fairly certain the Chief was supposed to be the officiant of.
Yeah, unfortunate, pulled in two different directions, unfortunately.
So, a lot of people consider me the Sergio Santos of officiating weddings. So congratulations to Chris and Jesse. And I got to say, Chris, former president of the Pride, Jesse, former board member of the Pride. It was not a very big wedding, and a lot of folks there, FC Cincinnati fans. They were board members and former board members of the Pride, and their wedding kicked off at 4:00. And so the entire wedding
Can't
party,
catch a break.
Everybody was just watching the game on their phones. We gathered around. They tweeted it out. We ended up watching the penalty kicks from a phone propped up on a water fountain outside of the Cincinnati Observatory, which it's been a minute since I've been there. Gorgeous place for a wedding. And yeah, just brutal. But yeah, very wedding centric weekend for us. Grayson, Chief and I were obviously then not at the game. Did you get to watch the game in person?
I was there.
Oh,
I was there.
I'm sorry.
I gotta say, I like that it was at 4:00.
You could get a couple more drinks in afterwards.
Yeah.
It was part of your day. It wasn't your whole day, which is the result turned out is probably for the best.
Well, the plan was not for it to be my whole day, but given what happened, I did make a decision to have more drinks afterwards, and had some had some harsh words for the team. Yeah. But in retrospect, I'd like to say I was right. I don't take any of it back. Although I did delete a couple. I deleted one where I accused a guy of being a front office burner.
Oh. Yeah. You can't be doing that.
Yeah. I don't have any reason. I don't have any. Well, I don't have any knowledge that that's the case.
Very, very
I
political.
would say that I made a deduction.
Yeah. I knew something was going on because I got a text message from Damon Gumbert, who was again able to get into the press box for this one, who just said, "Is Grayson okay?"
The answer to that is no. None of us were okay.
Grayson was not, in fact, okay.
No. The answer is it was not okay. It was not preferable. It was not the outcome we were looking for, and it left a lot of us in a questioning mood, I'll say.
It did.
Just sort of how it ended and if it needed to end this way. So like, I know Grayson, you went a little out of pocket, hand up. I've been there many times. But no, it's funny how you dissect sort of how this all ended and how this all went. And it was alarmingly foreseeable for, miles down the road, for weeks and months down the road. And in the end, the undoing of the 2025 season was frustratingly obvious in hindsight and in foresight.
Yeah, I don't want this to be, I don't want this to be like just a negative episode, right?
No.
Like we've had plenty of those. I don't want to hold back either. What I will say is, we probably had our worst received episode ever was maybe the end of the transfer window.
Yeah. Yes.
And they filled their DP striker spot with somebody who played 1 minute in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's not going to do it.
No.
And nobody else will do this. I'll toot our own horn here. especially you guys. Very correct on that episode. Very correct.
The other thing I want to say, that's the other like negative thing I think I want to just get out of the way is, before the season, Pat was like, it's like the year before the year. And we've seen a lot of people, I think, trying to be optimistic. And I think being genuine, right? I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but saying like, oh, it's the year before the year, like 22 was like the year before the year, whatever. I don't think you can really think like that. I mean, like
it's always the year.
This was a year. Like this was a year they could have
It's
done
always the year. Especially with the way the playoffs broke out.
Especially
this was a year.
Yeah. And when people forget when they say like, that's true. Like yes, the way the playoffs broke out, Miami out, Columbus out, like the pathway to MLS Cup in the East is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do more in the summer window, you could talk about injuries all you want. They left U22s in a DP spot on the table. If you do that, you definitely survive NYCFC. You probably walk to MLS Cup. And then you play Galaxy or LAFC, and that's going to be a tough game no matter what you do. Yeah. But you can't win unless you get there. Right. And they could have gotten there. They were good enough to get there.
And LAFC did not look great in the playoffs. Galaxy looks incredible, but who knows what it would have been.
But also, like with the year before the year thing, like, do people not realize other teams also can do stuff
and get better?
other teams that are currently better than us can still get better. And like, there's 29 teams in the league.
30 now, baby.
Gonna be 30.
We don't recognize the 30th. It's okay.
We keep a star off the flag.
Right.
So there's gonna be 30 teams in the league next year. At least a handful of them are also trying to get better and win. Miami is going to sign people. Yeah. Columbus is going to sign people.
Yeah.
The LAs are going to keep signing people. These other teams are going to keep getting better. You can't just be like, this is the year before the year. We're going to do a couple of things, get better in the off season, and then next year is going to be our year.
Yeah.
If you're at the top of this league, you need to be I think you need to be approaching every year. Like you have an opportunity to win a championship. And I really don't think that Chris Albright necessarily disagrees with us. I mean, he's talked about a window, and we'll talk about this too. He's talked about like a window with this group.
Yeah.
Right. Where like this group is going to be together, or like the core players are going to be together through like 26 or whatever. And then you got to think about what the team looks like after that. If it's like a 3-year window with your core group of players, you can't have a year where you're like, oh, this is just
this is a rebuilding year,
not the year.
Right. Yeah.
And like, you have injuries and all that, but like to my eyes, they did pretty well dealing with the backline injuries.
That actually was not the thing that held them back.
No, it's not.
No, you look at this game, this elimination game, the backline played fine. Clean sheet. And it was, where was this team let down? It was let down exactly where we all kind of thought it would be after the summer window. And really after Bupenza left, they strike out on getting a striker or a goal scorer or a difference maker at the window. And you have a game that is just begging for someone to do something special in the 6-yard box or the 18-yard box. And it's just, there were chance after chance after chance that were created, and there was no one there. So there were balls being played, no one making the back post run, no one able to finish in front of the net. And look, I'm with Grayson. I don't want this to be negative just because I've only got a limited amount of time up here before we have to continue our trek onward. All I'm going to say is that, like, look, you want to hear why this season went awry? There's backlogs of episodes you can listen to between the transfer window ending and the end of the regular season. Yep. And it is what it is. It sucks, especially given how the playoffs went out. And this series was there for the taking at all points. This 3-game series was there for the taking at all points. I think that on balance, they're a better team than NYCFC. On talent for talent basis, they're a better team, but NYCFC plays within itself. It plays a system that is repeatable. And at the end of the day, they managed to get this game to penalty kicks because FC Cincinnati thoroughly dominated in all aspects other than the one that really matters. That's putting the ball in the back of the net. And in terms of the windows, yeah. I mean, you're seeing this from the Bengals right now. Like, you have to view when you have a team that's competitive, especially in this sort of era of MLS, where about half the league isn't trying to win. You have no guarantee that's going to be the case forever. Like, you've got to maximize these opportunities where you have an advantage by having an ownership group that's willing to spend, and you have a salary cap structure right now that is favorable to small and mid-market teams. That like the LAs, the Miamis, and the New Yorks of the world can't go out and buy titles despite Miami's best effort. And so, yeah, the postmortem on this season is, they kind of punted it a year. And by the sound of things, it looks like they're about ready to change that immediately. And they're about to rectify that situation immediately with this rumored, I'll call it more than rumored at this point. I think that you can safely say that this is a deal that's going to get done based on how it's reported and, some of the other back channel things. This is a deal that's going to get done, and they're going to get a guy in here on a team record transfer who importantly is ready to be here with this team from jump in the offseason. There's not going to be that, they go to Florida and they're waiting to see who shows up. That's not going to be there. They're going to have this guy have months to get situated in Cincinnati after the African Cup of Nations. He'll be there for the full off-season program. They can build the rest of their roster pieces knowing he's around, and we move onward. And that's kind of the joy of this sport, is that we move onward.
Yeah, this is honestly like the biggest news right now. Well, as we speak, this is the biggest news. It might not be the biggest news out of the weekend, but just to get everybody up to speed, reporting out there from Tom Bogert and then quickly confirmed by both Pat Brennan and Laurel Thaler that Kevin Denke is how I'm going to pronounce this until I learn otherwise. Togo International, currently playing at Cercle Bruges. I'm just going to fully Americanize all of this. Last season, he won the Golden Boot in Belgium. He is 23 years old. The reported fee is somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 million, would be the team's highest paid transfer fee. I can't look it up fast enough here. I have it up here, but I can't seem to find the way to do it. I believe this would make him one of the most expensive incoming transfers in MLS history. This is pretty huge move, I will say, and it probably should not be unnoticed. I don't think we get this story today if FC Cincinnati won yesterday. This does feel a little PRE, but at the same time, assuming it is true,
I will say this.
Please.
He was spotted.
Yes.
By people at the game yesterday. So I don't know that they could have kept a lid on their interest in this player.
Right.
And if they're already in active negotiations and already trying to finalize the deal, I think that was going to get out pretty quickly regardless of yesterday's news or yesterday's outcome, I think.
Yeah.
So as far as the price of the transfer, Atlanta has the two biggest incoming transfers of all time. So this article in Yahoo has Almada at $16 million. Okay. And Pity Martinez at $15.5 million.
Ooh.
They were both, according to the transfer market, 14.5 million euros.
Okay.
So I guess that just depends on what the transfer fee was, or what the conversion rate was at the time of the transfer. So he would be third.
Yeah.
If it's $15 million, he would be the third most expensive incoming transfer in MLS history. It's funny that Atlanta has 5 of the top 6 and we have the other one.
Pretty cool for us. Not gonna lie.
We're gonna have two of the top 6 if this one does indeed happen. I do think it's interesting that Bogert has this the day after the playoff loss, just like he had the detailed reporting about the stuff they're doing in the transfer window, like the day after the transfer window closed. There does seem to be a process, process, I guess, for FC Cincinnati getting ahead of narratives.
So before I hop off here, I have to ask, if you had to put a percentage on it, percentage that the news came out because of the loss or because of Lucho's post-game press conference? I think it's more because of Lucho's post-game press conference that they needed to do something to change the vibe up around, hey, our star player is saying that he doesn't feel like the team is meeting his needs, and he may have just played his last game for the team. Which, to that, I will just say, losses have people emotional. Maybe he was shocked. It's been a difficult year for Lucho. We're not a WAGs podcast, so we don't get into a lot of that stuff. But
there's a there. Yeah.
There's a there. I wouldn't panic over the there. He's under contract for 2 more years. So regardless of how
plus a team option
personally, plus the team options, regardless of how he feels personally, there's every incentive in the world for them to make this marriage work between him and FC Cincinnati. And I am curious how much of the news being released was a product of, number one, showing Lucho we are serious and letting the fan base know, hey, look over here. We've got a shiny new thing for you to focus on. Please don't focus on the star player in his feels on a press conference. Anyway, that's my story. I'm leaving. I'm at the top of the mountain. I love you guys. I will be back on the show midweek next week. And to everyone out there, you know what? Just fuck MLS. How about that?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. See you,
Love
Chief.
you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah. God, I mean, I had a feeling this episode would be all around. So let me just explain maybe a little bit about what the Chief was saying there. Some pretty tough quotes coming out after the playoff loss from Lucho Acosta. I am trying to quickly find Pat Brennan tweeting, Lucho Acosta reflecting on the 2024 season says that this could be the end for him at FC Cincinnati. Not certain, but said tough moments for him, his family, and some frustration. A lot of some not great stuff from the star FC Cincinnati player, if you were hoping to see him continue on. And as Chief said, he's under contract, so it's not a unilateral decision unless he's going to retire from the sport, I suppose. But damn, Grayson, how do we take in this weekend here? We've got Lucho wanting to leave. To decide to add to Chief's question, was this story also aimed at Lucho? That like Lucho, we're bringing reinforcements. Like obviously they'd have conversations with him in private, but to publicly commit like this is something else.
Yeah, I do think that Chief is probably onto something, that the timing comes out on the heels of the of that Lucho news. This is from Laurel's reporting.
Okay, please.
Okay, so he says, maybe it's the end for me at the club. We don't know. We have to keep speaking with the corresponding people and see what happens in the future. For me, I gave my all for this club. Today I played for the fans to remember as my last at the club. I want them to remember me like this. I gave my life for this club. I gave everything. They were amazing years. I'm not saying I'm leaving, but today I'm taking a little break and think well about what's going to happen. A lot of the things the club did hurt me. They hurt a lot. To go from having an incredible year, winning the Supporters' Shield, and then leave a lot of players aside.
That little bit at the end is very interesting.
Is interesting. I'm just looking at the quotes to make sure there's nothing else.
Yeah,
that we want to talk about.
I mean, in terms of players being left aside.
Oh, here's the other thing that Laurel reported. Acosta told Queen City Press he began conversations with Albright and Noonan around the time of Leagues Cup this summer about a potential move. That was when he was dealing with the injuries and trying to resolve some family matters. So there's look, if you look for it, and I guess I would say my advice would be not to. But if you look for it, you can find lots of people talking about, what's going on in Lucho's personal life. It's really not my business, and that's what I'm going to speculate on, other than to say, throughout the year, there have been various things that have come across, I think, all of us here on the postcast about what may or may not be going on in Lucho's life. I think, honestly, going back into like mid last season.
Yeah.
People would tell you stuff and whatever. And there's a reason that we've just never brought it up.
Yeah.
And, that's going to continue to be the case. So I think I want to leave the family stuff there, speculation on that. The thing I do want to address is, so Laurel says Acosta pondering future is the headline she uses. I believe she's used that same phrasing before with Lucho. It was the beginning of the 2023 season.
Yeah, and there was that like weird Red Star Belgrade rumor or partisan rumor that popped up. Yeah.
And in 23, the issue was he was in essentially a contract year.
Yeah.
And was in the midst of negotiating an extension, which they gave him. They gave him a big raise. He makes a good salary by MLS standards. I believe he's a top 10 salary player in the league now. Although
Miami might have knocked him down a couple of pegs, but yeah.
So he looks like he's 13th.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. So
imagine Suarez and Giroud are making a little more than him. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of guys are pretty high up on the list, but so you got to remember, so the pondering the future language was used in 23 ahead of his contract extension and his big race.
Yeah.
Pondering the future is again used at the end of this year. Apparently there were talks between the team and Lucho's agent in the summer. This is purely speculative. Okay. But if a story comes out that your team is looking to sign a player at like a $10 million a year salary and like a $20 million transfer fee.
Yeah.
And you're the best player in the team and the reigning league MVP. And you're like, you're going to bring some guy on this team to make $10 million and I make $4 million.
Yeah.
I'm pondering my future that I need a raise in my future.
Right.
Right. Like that's like immediately where my mind went.
Right. Unless you're saying that player is whatever 2.5 times better than Lucho or whatever.
Yeah. And like you talked about like some players moving on. Well, you can't tie any of that to the summer.
No.
Like that didn't happen in the summer. So like what's going on with the timing in the summer?
And in terms of the players that were left behind, there's only 2 that I think could qualify here. And when I say their names, it might add up that Lucho would be upset. Junior Moreno and Santi Arias are 2 players that you absolutely could have seen come back. They made reasonable cases to be brought back. I don't know what the salary demands were. I don't know what the contract situation was. Arias was functionally replaced by Yedlin pretty early on in the season. Moreno for Buca. Those feel like similar-ish salary numbers, but again, I don't have the specifics. I can't say anything. But the guys like Barreal and Vasquez were asking to leave.
Well, right. Like Barreal wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Vasquez wanted to leave.
I mean, the story with those guys was we didn't let them leave soon enough. So I think we kept them longer than they wanted.
And Mosquera, they had no say in the matter. They didn't have a buy option.
Yeah.
He was on loan. There was no option there. So Junior Moreno, I think, was on like in the neighborhood of 300,000, 400,000 last year. The salary number the MLSPA has him on at Houston,
down in Houston,
is $89,716 base salary and guaranteed comp of $114,716. If he was willing to come back on like senior minimum, I bet he would still be on the team. Instead, he went to Saudi Arabia,
where I assume he made
got
more.
a big paycheck for that part of the season that he played.
Yeah,
and so the player that I do think you could make a case for is Santiarias. Like, they had an option on him. They could have brought him back. He was a really good player. He played well with Lucho.
Yeah.
And, you know, if he's healthy,
right.
Probably better than Yedlin on a similar
I think that's
number.
fair.
But I mean, so, you know, that was one maybe that you'd want to take back. But the others, there's not really a good case to be mad at, because there's, what are they supposed to do? Like, what are they supposed to do with Barreal?
Right.
Like, he would rather go on loan to Brazil,
right,
which gets him farther from playing in Europe,
right,
than stay here and try to get a move going.
Or if you're trying to make Lucho happy and Barreal happy, you sell Barreal to what the rumor was out there, a French club for $6 million in the middle of the summer. We probably don't win the Supporter Shield. And the playoffs probably go a similar way. Like, I don't know how you sell what was your second or third best player on that team and think that would have been good or that Lucho would have been happy about that decision. And then the same for Vasquez with allegedly the Bundesliga conversations.
And as far as like replacing him,
right?
Could you have hoped for a better Barreal replacement than Orellano?
Yeah, maybe the narrative is we could have had Orellano last summer and we should have done the swap that right then and there. But also, as we slowly learned over the course of this season, he wasn't going to be the wing back.
Right. And they brought in Assad, to play with Lucho. They're good buddies.
Yeah. Probably on the recommendation of Lucho. I don't think Assad was on anybody else's radar. He was very much out of the league. He signs for league minimum. I mean, again, not to get into the personal side of things, but the scuttlebutt out there is him and Lucho are roommates. So like they're boys, all right? Like they're hanging out. So I don't know. That comment from Lucho is just so weird, especially given how the rest of this is shaken out. And again, not privy to every conversation, but what we can see up front.
And the way that Laurel reported it, especially, which was Lucho being unsatisfied with some of the moves the team made or some of the decisions that they made, and through his agent approaching the team to look for a move, is very different than the
Lucho's being
Albright
shopped.
is shopping Lucho context-free rumor that we got over the summer. That it also kind of underscores like why we never really got into that. Because like what I said at the time was like, Albright is shopping Lucho is even if it were true, doesn't like tell you anything.
Right.
Like it's worse than having no information at all, in my view, because you don't know without any of the reasoning or the context. If it's like, oh, he's shopping Lucho because Lucho wants to move back to Argentina, or he's shopping Lucho because Kylian Mbappe really wants to play here and he needs to make room, or he's shopping Lucho because he doesn't like Lucho, or he's shopping Lucho because he's mad that Gerard Nightcamp gets credit for the signing. Like all of these different things.
Right. Or maybe there was an international bidding war for Lucho and all of a sudden Albright's got a couple of 10, 15, $20 million offers on the table.
If somebody's coming in and they're like, we'll give you $20 million for Lucho.
Yeah.
Like that would be something that would be a fine move to make. Right. So it's like, you don't know without the context. You have no idea what conclusion to take away from it, which is like why we never really got into it, which is the point we made when we briefly acknowledged it. Yeah.
And it also just wasn't being substantiated by, I'll say, more reputable corners of the internet. So, yeah.
Sure. But, you know,
we'll dabble.
We'll dabble. Come on. So, with this one, like that comment, I don't really know what to do with it. I think that, you know, if there's one thing that he hears about the kind of money being thrown at other players and he wants a piece of it, you know, that I kind of understand.
Sure.
And then the other thing, you know, if there's a personal issue that you can also understand, I don't like how the team has dealt with some of the departures.
Yeah.
Give it, you know, that just doesn't compute to me.
Yeah.
So then that leads me to just, Lucho's like a special guy. Like he's like a special player with special temperament, and he gets upset sometimes.
There is one more case though that might, I don't know what the whole narrative was. Acosta and Bupenza did not get along.
Oh, do you think he's upset about what happened with Bupenza?
That's the only player exit that is like genuinely controversial. And like the league stepped in and, as far as I can tell, threw the team a bone on a technicality to get this guy off the roster. Like, how many thousands of times have players not shown up to training or blown out meetings or shown up late to things? And you don't usually see the league step in and unilaterally void a contract. That's pretty dramatic. I don't, that's the only other one I could think of like a departure mid-season. We were doing well. And I mean, most people would point to Matt Niazga, but the results also kind of follow Bupenza out the door as well. It's weird. It's a weird season. And yeah, I am more in the camp of Lucho's got a lot going on in his personal life. That was a brutal loss. A penalty shootout that we can really in no way, shape, or form lay any blame on Roman Celentano. Didn't think we'd see that narrative come out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to take. And yeah, I'm sure he's feeling things. And it sounds like, and again, I don't know how much of this is motivated by, you know, what piece of it he said, but Lucho has been looking for the exit for a little bit now. So, I mean, again, the awkward thing here, though, he's under contract for 2, team option for 1. That's 3 years of control. He's a very good player. The team's going to want something back.
It's so funny to be like, this is my city.
Just a couple of months ago.
And then the next day be like, Chris, you got to move me.
I've never wanted to be here.
Because you didn't re-sign Santiago Arias.
Which again happened 6 months before the "this is my city" moment. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I guess to put a cap on
Lucho
on the Lucho thing.
Yeah.
A lot of teams try to like it's not as simple as moving Lucho on and signing another good player.
Yeah.
Like teams across MLS try to sign players as good as Lucho and don't.
Right.
Like, and so
if it were that easy, it'd be a lot more Luchas running around this league.
And, I don't want to see him moved. It seems crazy to be like, we have our DP number 10 sorted, and we're going to create that problem by moving him
right
unnecessarily. If they do, it resets your quote unquote window. And I'm not interested in that. like I'm not interested in going into 2025 and being like, well, we lost Lucho, and it's hard for teams to recover from losing
their talisman
MVP.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear it. Like regardless of what happened, like if they move him, I don't want to hear it as an excuse for subpar results.
And for further evidence of that, we just need to look about 100 miles to the north. Luca Zelarayan, I believe, was a league MVP. At the very least, was an MLS Cup MVP. Won the cup. They sold him. I don't think
he was league MVP, but he was.
Okay.
I think he was MLS Cup MVP, and obviously he was a top player in the league.
Yeah. They sold him, and 24 hours later had his replacement, and his replacement helped win them a couple trophies. So, yeah, if that's the plan.
The replacement won them MLS Cup that year, or helped win them MLS Cup that same exact year.
That same year, won trophies again the next year. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, let me ask you this. And this will sort of help bridge the two conversations.
I do want to get back to Denki at least briefly.
Yes, this will bridge both of these. Right now, again, as we're recording, 10 p.m. November 10th, 2024. How much faith do you have in Chris Albright?
So I don't know how to quantify it specifically.
I'll take a percentage. 100% full faith, 0% should be fired tomorrow for gross incompetence.
I have a lot of faith in him. I mean, he's good. He's really good at signing defenders. He's
Maybe
really
good.
He's really good at signing midfielders.
Yeah.
Which the team was terrible at both of those before him.
Yes.
And I feel like as long as he's in charge, the team will be in position to compete for trophies year in, year out. Like, are they going to be Shield winners, top of the league every year? Who knows? But what he has shown he is clearly capable of doing is, I think, a system that can win consistently in the league and is repeatable and isn't necessarily dependent on purely on the specific personnel that you've chosen. Although he hasn't cycled rosters that much yet, just because he's only been in charge for like a small period of time.
Yeah.
I don't know that he can sign an attacker.
Yeah.
I guess Luca, who he signed to play wingback.
Right. Was not supposed to be the attacker. The other attacker we had up top was Yuya Kubo, who was re-signed by Albright. So I'll give him some credit there, but was not initially brought here by Albright. And
the best forwards on the team since he's been here were Lucho, Brandon, Brenner, which were all night camp signings. Kubo, night camp signing
in there.
He did sign Bupenza, who showed in some discrete games, a very high ceiling from a talent standpoint.
You could see why he was signed. It wasn't a total head scratcher that Bupenza was signed.
Right. But he lasted a year in the team before they terminated his contract, and he played, not nearly as many games as he could have.
Not half of that year, even. Yeah.
Yep. But I would say
Santos.
Yeah, but his forward signings have been Santos, who's shown to be useful depth.
Yeah.
Kelsey, who showed some flashes but wasn't consistently used for whatever reason, even in a team that had striker problems.
Yep.
Dado's homegrown.
Joachini.
No goals.
Yeah.
1 minute in the playoffs.
Corey somebody described sort of thrust on him, but yeah, Corey Baird, Dombaji.
Dombaji's probably the best of the group. I mean,
yeah. And let him walk. Maybe Lucho was mad about Baji walking. I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, he's swung twice at DP strikers, has not hit. He signed a U22 striker to mixed results, who I don't expect to be on the team next year.
I have a theory about that.
And he's brought on some strikers with MLS experience who did not perform their salary number. Just say it like, I guess, that way.
Yeah.
So I think he needs to show that he can sign a top attacker.
So I put your faith at 80%? If I had to quantify what you said.
Right. Yeah. So to quantify it, I would say
the people demand a percentage point.
Yeah, like 80, 85. Like, I think he's a trophy winning sporting director. He's in the top tier in MLS.
Yeah.
I think to be in the conversation, to be like, oh, is he like, to be in the conversation with the likes of like Garth Lagerwey or Bezbachenko, not to exclude other guys, but just to pick two.
Yeah.
He needs to show that he can like bring goals to the team.
Yeah. Yeah. And he might have 3 DP spots to play with this winter, so he'll certainly have the opportunity. But that does let us transition very nicely to Kevin Denke. This is an incredibly exciting signing. Again, on paper, this is everything that you'd want from an MLS designated player signing. I'm looking at, again, his FB ref here, his percentile, 96th percentile non-penalty goals, 96th percentile non-penalty XG, 95th percentile in total shots, expected assisted goals, 87th percentile, non-penalty expected goals plus expected assists, 97th percent. It's pretty damn good. 76th percentile in aerials won. He's a big fella. If you see some pictures of him, he stands out on the field. 23 years old. We just missed the U22 initiative signing on him, but 23 years old is considerably younger than we've seen with like Bupenza and even Obi and some of these other guys that he's brought in that have been those top tier talents for sure on this team. Whew. How you feeling about this one? You excited?
I'm very excited. My immediate thought when I saw the $15 million number was that this was the same number that had been tied to Bertarame. And he looks he excites me way more than Bertarame does at the same number. As we mentioned earlier, he won the Golden Boot in the Belgian league last year, which
you're doing some digging in this.
The Belgian league is a good league with some really good teams.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't know that it's like a better league than MLS. In fact, I don't really think it's a better league than MLS.
Yeah.
But it's a good league. And so if somebody wins the Golden Boot in it, that is probably a really good player, right? He's not doing this in Kazakhstan. Right.
Right. Yeah. Belgium is certainly suffers from the European League condition where like the top 4 or 5 and Belgium's a little funnier. So you'd probably even go up to 6 teams in Belgium are really good and would instantly become elite MLS teams if you brought them over here. But the bottom half, not that good.
Right.
You're looking at really good USL teams down there.
It's a big disparity.
Yeah.
Like his team, and this is just to give you like a data point.
Yeah.
Not to give you not to say like this number is decisive or proves anything specifically. But his team, Circle Bruges, has about a 56 million euro value on transfer market, being like the total values of all the players added together.
Yeah.
FC Cincinnati's is $48 million, but like it's so close where like 48 million euros, but it's so close that like if you move him to us,
right,
we take them over, right? Like we eclipse them. And there's a lot of good players in the Belgian league. Joseph Paintsil came from the Belgian league, did not win the Golden Boot there, but has been, phenomenal for LA Galaxy.
Okay. Yeah.
So like you can get top players from there. The counterpoint to that is the Golden Boot winner in Belgium before Kevin Dinky was Hugo Kuipers, who Chicago signed for $11 million or 11 million euros. I don't know which, before this season. And he had 10 goals.
Yeah.
Which honestly,
we could have used
given
that.
how dire Chicago's season was, like that's probably not like a bad, probably not a, bad stat line, frankly.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of U.S. men's national team fans who would like just assume that the Belgian league is like it's like because it's got that quote unquote Europe, right?
Right.
Where it's like if a guy goes from MLS to Belgium, a bunch of U.S. MNT Twitter accounts are going to be like, oh, that guy needs to start every game.
Of course.
Like over any MLS player. And like, I don't think that's it's not the Premier League. Right. But like, if you go back through Golden Boot winners in the Belgian league,
some names.
They end up in the Premier League. They end up in the Bundesliga, right? These are players that end up getting big moves.
And at 23 years old, right?
23 years old,
that's
right?
Good.
So like, he's younger than most of these Golden Boot winners as well. And this is like this 23, 24, like just too old to be a young designated player.
Yeah.
Is something that you're seeing some MLS teams start to gravitate to, because you're not a youth prospect at that point. So like Premier League teams aren't going to necessarily take a flyer on you as a youth prospect. You're going to be viewed as a little older. Yeah. So like, could you make that move? Yes. They're not going to pay necessarily top dollar for you.
Yeah.
At that age. But like, Cucho Hernandez was in this age bracket when Columbus signed him. And I would put him in a very similar position to Denke. Cucho was in a bigger league, but he wasn't getting regular minutes.
Right.
So, but he was producing in limited minutes, like for those minutes.
Yeah.
Right. But Denke is producing at an extremely high level.
Yes.
While getting a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
So like I said, like at $15 million, this seems like a much better move than like paying Bertarame's release clause, who's not putting numbers like this.
Yeah.
In Mexico.
And I'd say has a lower ceiling. He's a more established player.
He's
a little
much
older player,
right?
Yeah.
Isn't he like,
he's 29 or 30, I think, Berterame.
I don't think he's that old.
Ancient. Put him in a home.
But yeah, he's 25. So he's a couple years older.
Okay. So he's much younger than I thought.
He's a couple years older than Denke. This is a really exciting move. And I think nothing's a guarantee, but I think people are going to be really happy if this happens. And I think folks are going to really enjoy what he does. The last thing I want to say about it is I also had as I was pondering this move today. Yeah. I had a very like hand it to ISIS situation where Chief has always been like, oh, if you're willing to pay like $15 million for this player, you can find a better player for $15 million, right? Right. He's always saying, which like doesn't, but like, I guess it's true. Like, if you're willing to pay $15 million for Berterame, you can find a better player for $15 million.
Yeah, it really does feel like we just went out and found another. Now, here's the question. Here's the challenge to all 12 listeners. Find the better player than Kevin here, than Denke, because look, if you could find a better 15 million for Berterame, we can find a better 15 than Denke. This is the challenge. I was going to offer another data point for you, just in terms of comparing Belgium and MLS. I do think, and I think it's an underrated thing. I've sort of come back around on it, that transfer market relative values are actually helpful when comparing things. But if you were to trust the folks over at Opta, who do a lot of data analytics, they do rankings of teams and team performance. A lot of this is weighted based on intra-league or interleague competitions, which is very limited in North America, but you get some sense of what they're working with here. According to them, they have the Belgian Pro League one spot ahead of MLS in their overall team power rankings. However, when you just compare the top 10 teams power ranking, we are in a virtual dead heat. Each got an 81.6 and MLS got an 81.5 ranking. So that's interesting that they're very similarly ranked teams, or leagues, I should say. But this is where I think it's very interesting. They also globally rank virtually every pro team in the world. FC Cincinnati's global rank, 186th in the world. Cercle Bruges, 251st. So Denke's putting up these numbers on, I don't want to say a worse team than us, because again, it's not a great way to put this, but I will say not on one of the top teams in this league, and he's still tearing these guys up. That's awesome. It's one thing to be the top goal scorer for, Real Madrid in La Liga. It's another thing to be the La Liga top goal scorer for like Mallorca or something. Like, it's a little different when not the cream of the crop is doing it. So reason to get excited here.
Yeah. I mean, this is one where there was a like Reddit post that was quickly deleted.
Yes.
That mentioned him. And somebody apparently said that they had like saw him around town
Yeah.
And I'm like, who the fuck recognizes Kevin Danke on the street? Who in Cincinnati is like walking down the street is like, hey, I think that's Kevin Danke.
I think that's Togo International and Circle Bruce star Kevin Danke. Maybe there was a camera crew following him. You know, maybe that helps stand out.
Yeah, but it's funny because like he played in Europa Conference League in the week, and then Bruges had a game today.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, I think this is like Friday. I was like, zero chance he's here.
Yeah, of course.
Like he's in the season. He just played a game and he's got a game Sunday. My bad.
Yeah, turns out the reporting this weekend, he missed the game because he's working on a transfer. So,
yep.
There you go.
There had been rumors linking him to Lille.
Yeah.
Lille?
I think it's Lille.
Lille. Because I think Jonathan David moved
or is moving to one of the Milans, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little behind.
I'm a little behind as well. Yeah, he's still at Lille, but he's apparently moving. They expect this winter, so they would be looking for a replacement striker. Okay. And that would seem like a much more logical move. Like Lille replaces a top striker with the guy who just won the Golden Boot in the Belgian league. Like that would feel totally plausible. And I would assume that somebody playing in Europe would rather go play in League One. So
I believe Denke came up in a French academy as well. So he played got some connections. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's just BS linking him to Lille. I mean, some Belgian reporters were apparently saying that wasn't the move.
Yeah.
That he was doing. But if I don't know, the smoke will clear on this, and they'll put out a Tinder meme, and we'll find out all the teams that he swiped for. But if they're legitimately, winning a bidding war against a League One team, that's real business, man. Like, that's quote unquote ambition.
Yes, I do think it's fair to judge a signing by the suitors. I know this is something that you really see in like people who follow college football recruits is like you'll see a kid with offers from Texas and Alabama and Miami, Florida, and UC, and you're like, oh shit, hell yeah, that's a good player there. I don't know. I'm happy to judge him based on that. I think bidding for a player that's on the radar of some of these bigger clubs, these bigger leagues, it's really good. And I mean, if he can get this business done, and he being Albright here, if he can get the business done early. And as Chief said, get him into the preseason camp, have him here with the whole team early on. That's awesome.
And Chief mentioned African Cup of Nations. I don't think Togo is qualified yet.
I didn't even think about that.
That's not a for sure thing that he'd be going to that. I mean, I wish him the best. I wish him all the success in the world. But there's no guarantee that like he has to miss time for that. So we'll find out.
And Africa Cup of Nations is in January, right? January to February?
I think it's in January, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, he'd be away for some preseason camp. I don't think we'd be in danger of missing a.
But wouldn't it be incredible to just have a guy here? So the dates for AFCON are December 21st to January 18th.
Oh, perfect timing.
Actually, that's next year anyway.
In 2025? Or starts at the end of 2024? Sorry.
Yeah, so it would not even be an issue for this season.
Well, now you can root for Togo guilt free.
So let's root for Togo, root for Tanzania. So yeah, I mean, I was like, sign a player better than Cucho. Maybe. Like, it would be totally plausible.
Yeah. And I mean, now we get to sit back and really root for, Cucho to move to Liga MX, for Nancy to take a job maybe in Ligue 1 and, watch their whole thing blow up. That'd be cool. We're obviously not going to talk about the game. I think.
Yeah, we lost. It sucked.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
Yeah. Yeah. From what little I watched on my phone, I guess it could have been better. It could have been worse.
This season was a bad relationship. It was,
it needed to end.
Every time you were like, oh, it's over. They do something that makes you think like, oh, maybe this is forever.
Roman saves 3 penalties in a row. Maybe we're the team of destiny.
And, sometimes you're better off just being done with it and moving on. Yeah, I think I'm ready to just turn the page.
Yeah. Yeah. I am too. So at least for today, we are not going to have a Gold Star shining moment of the match. We will do something a little bit different in that respect later on this week. I've got some ideas. But Grayson, let's wrap this up with a couple of October Patreon questions to see us out here. So we'll do that over in part 2, and that'll be your postcast. And before we get to that next part of the episode, I got to tell you about our other friends over at Cincy Shirts. Look, they've been with us from the beginning. They've been some of the earliest supporters of FC Cincinnati, and it is everybody's favorite spot to get Cincinnati apparel. Look, we're cheering on the FC through the playoffs, making the cup run. Get yourself some new gear, all right? Get yourself some watch party shirts and pick it up at Cincy Shirts. That's where you want to go. Hey, when you're there, use the promo code ThePostCincy. That's all one word, all caps. They'll knock 10% off of your order. You can use this in store, by the way. They've got 3 locations. You can find them over in Northern Kentucky, Loveland, and in Oakley Hyde Park. It's a really, really nice experience going in the store because you can make some slight modifications. You can ask for something a little bit different. For example, hey, by the way, we sell merch over at Cincy Shirts. You can use the link down in the description of this episode, or you can search The Post Cincy on their website. And we've got a bunch of shirts. One of those shirts is one that kind of looks like a jersey. All right. Kind of looks like a kit. If you go in store, you can get it printed on the back of the shirt. How about that? They also have youth sizes available. And I know that because I have outfitted my kids in Opie shirts. Okay. So don't let that be a hindrance to you. Cincy Shirts, it's awesome. Use the promo code ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, 10% off. By the way, the code works on the Post's merch. How about that? You can double up. So head on over to Cincy Shirts, either in person or online. Link in the description. Pick up some new gear for the playoff run. They also have tons of Reds, Bengals, and basically every Cincinnati neighborhood represented in there. Go check them out. Huge thank you to Cincy Shirts. Huge thank you to you for using that code. All right, we are back. And again, it is Patreon and Patreon questions that help keep this thing afloat. For a couple of bucks a month, you too can join, give or take, a dozen people in making a poor financial decision, in supporting us. For all of your hard work and trouble, you get to ask a question. You get to ask one question a month. Now, here's the thing. October got weird, and so we're definitely behind. There is the opportunity to ask a November question. I've still got October questions to answer. So this first one comes to us from Dylan Douglas, who asks, do we get 1 month free, I assume of the Patreon, if we eat a Gold Star food item, drinking a street side beer in a Postcast Cincy shirt and post it to Facebook, Twitter /Reddit? The answer to that, Dylan, is yes. If you do that, I will refund you 1 month of Patreon. You have to post it online and you have to tag all of the businesses and the post, and you get your $2 back. Absolutely.
That goes for everybody, but I also want to say it has to be done in the month of November 2024.
Yes, please don't do it like
this is not a standing. This is not a standing offer.
It is a November offer.
You are going to pay that money in the future, and you will like it.
Yes. It's a good question, Dylan. Price Assassins asks a question that I want to revisit later. And I'm curious what your thought is. I'm happy to put a pin in this and come back to it later. They ask top 3 memorable moments since FC Cincinnati entered MLS.
Yeah, the Chicago Fire.
That was USL, sir.
Oh, fuck.
I mean, number 1 is winning the Shield. I feel like is the most memorable moment.
The Lucho moment of silence. The days of silence. Protest. The silent protest for Lucho's suspension.
I mean,
can we say US Mexico?
US Mexico could be. You don't get that moment without FCC in MLS.
If it has to be more closely tied to FC Cincinnati, I do think that an extremely memorable moment was when we had the Canada Gold Cup game here. The crowd chanting, "We want Brandon."
Yes. And
then Brandon coming on and scoring against Canada.
So good. So good. That was genuinely an awesome moment. And again, don't get that if this team isn't in MLS. Believe in Gaston was a really good unifying moment for the fan base online. A lot of people believing in Gaston. We did not manifest Gaston, unfortunately.
Well, believe in Kevin.
Yeah, believe in Denki here. Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, you got to throw out the home opener march is still a super iconic moment in this club's history.
So specifically FC Cincinnati memorable moments. I'll be honest, probably a lot of them that would be on my list would be off field.
Yeah.
Things like the Jan's press conference.
Yes.
The finding out Bupenza got punched and broke his jaw.
Matt Miazga's situation.
Oh, the Matt Miazga ref thing. Yeah. But on field, for me, Hagelin scoring in the TQL opening game and jumping into the Bailey.
Yeah.
Luca scoring the longest goal by an outfield player in MLS history ***.
The 6-0 beatdown of San Jose was a very exciting game.
I mean, honestly, for me, the third moment is the Open Cup semifinal against Miami.
Yeah. Doesn't go our way, but
doesn't go our way, but that is about the most exciting atmosphere I've been into.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, very unfortunate, but the split crowd is not something you get in American soccer just due to travel differences or distances. So that was exciting to have that many, frankly, away fans. Scott Wilson asks, without salary restrictions, Who would make your FC Cincinnati best 11, current roster and MLS alums?
What is MLS alums?
So,
the team players who played for FC Cincinnati and MLS.
Yeah. So if we could add Brandon Vasquez or Brenner to a dream FC Cincinnati best ever 11.
Yeah, sure. It's Celentano in goal. You could. I'll start, I guess. Celentano in goal.
Yeah.
Mosquera, Miazga, Awaziem.
Ooh.
Back three. Barreal at left wing back.
Yeah.
Santi Arias at right wing back.
Oh.
Obi.
Ooh, this is a controversial one here.
I'm going Buka.
Okay. There's certainly an argument for Moreno.
Certainly an argument for Moreno.
I'd hear you out if you were to say the name Madunginen, and then I would ask you to stop talking.
Lucho, obviously, and then Brenner and Vasquez.
Brenner and Vasquez. Yeah.
Who am I missing?
The only potential snub, and I think I got to see one more season, is Orishano. But you'd have to displace one of Brenner and Vasquez. That feels
so that's why I picked. So I went with Barreal because I went positionally.
Yeah. He's Barrios better at left wing back than Orishano is. I don't think anybody's going to argue that point. I know there's a lot of, frankly, nerds that would put Miles Robinson instead of Awaziem. He's apparently loved by the advanced metrics crews. I don't see it. I rate Awaziem. I think he's really, really good. I think he's better with the ball. Yeah. You could also, it's always hard to do this, but like how good he was relative to the rest of the team and the league he played in. Maybe there's an argument for Ledesma over Vasquez up top or Hoyt instead of Arias, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. So there you go. Yeah, I honestly think that's it. And the only other thing would be Hildebrandt over Celentano, just for the pure emotional connection that we had to those pretty special moments. I don't think it's controversial to say Roman is a much better goalkeeper than Mitch was. But Mitch was better at penalties. But I don't know. Maybe Roman showed us something here. Let me scroll through here.
Yeah.
I think you got it.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Sarah Gorman asks, Don Garber, has agreed to answer one single question from each of you without any follow-ups. What do you ask? Let's assume he has to give a truthful answer too, because he could just sidestep anything we ask.
Was the Matt Miazga suspension motivated by the CBA negotiations with the ref union?
Oh, if you could get an honest answer from that question, oh boy, that would be good. That would be good. Was FC Cincinnati's arrival to Major League Soccer predicated on the idea that the Columbus Crew would not be here? Like, do we get in if Crew is not moving? There's probably a better way to ask that, but something along those lines. Yeah. I think those would be two good questions. There's one here that I'm going to save because it says, show this to Grayson in advance. I did not do that.
No, well, show it to me.
Show it to you right now by reading it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Grayson, you have been tasked to write a Broadway musical starring acclaimed commercial actor, late Chief, and Mr. Kevin Wallace. Please present us with a brief synopsis, the title, plot climax, and the title of the featured duet sung by the two leads.
Yeah, so it's a musical adaptation of the play. It's a two-hander called I think it's called A Steady Rain.
Okay.
Please
do not look to me like I would know what this is.
That's fine. I saw it on Broadway years ago. It starred Hugh Jackman and Daniel Craig.
Okay.
I think you guys
could fill those shoes.
I think those guys are pretty close archetypes to you guys.
Yeah.
Chief would be in the Hugh Jackman role, obviously.
Obviously, come on.
It's about these two guys who are police officers. One of them's more they're partners in the police department in Chicago, and one of them's more bombastic and dominant, and the other guy is kind of more timid. And over the course of the play, they kind of experience a switch. Where the other guy gets kind of the upper hand based on life circumstances. And give me the rest of the question.
So that's a good synopsis. We got a title, plot climax. Is there a featured duet song? And if there isn't, what would it be?
The duet song is called My Reflection. And it's they're not in the same room, but they each are singing it as they're getting ready for work and kind of mirroring each other. And it's kind of they're kind of like describing like what their self-image as they're getting ready to like go out into the world each day. But it's also the kind of subtext is that they're each in various ways a reflection of each other.
I like that.
So they're kind of in the subtext talking about each other as their reflections.
Perfect. Well, I mean, I think you nailed that question, and I did not have to show you ahead of time. Jay Walbrink, I hope that answered what you were looking for. I feel like you have something to look up now, Jay, if you were not aware of this before. There is one more question from Redbeard that does require Chief. So I will hold off on that. And I believe we are caught up on October with that one. So look at us. November 10th, we're knocking them out. So there we go. We'll bring Chief back on midweek to discuss this. We'll have our Gold Star Shining moment as well there. But until then, I should also mention, listen after the credits. We get to be the exclusive provider of the Jim Trace and the Makers new single. I mean, it'll be available elsewhere, to be clear, but like we're the debut, so you can listen to that at the end of the credits. Grayson, help the folks get to the credits here.
Yeah, fuck this leak.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next, or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening. And as promised, here's Jim Trace and the Makers with Lucifer.
Been on my own since I was 9 years old. Yeah, no one took its toll. I was told that I was cold. Some people are so goddamn bold. But I'm here to do my thing. Don't give a shit because I know I can. Now you see that I'm no good. I wouldn't fix it even if I could. If you go, I won't blame. I'm a mess to see, I'm insane. But you know that you won't mean nothing to me, 'cause I'm Lucifer. Down. Don't you see that I'm no good? You know I'd fix it if I knew how to. You're too good for me. It won't be long until it's all you see.